Hello to all the cloud enthusiasts. I hope that you all are at the best of your health, wealth, and I hope that you guys are on a journey of understanding this AWS cloud right from the basic till the mastery, and that's the reason why we have this channel and we have all of these tutorials. Guys, my name is Tejas and I am a cloud simplifier, which means that I provide simplification of this cloud technology, because when I initially started my journey in this cloud technology, there were so many jargons, there were so many concepts that I was really confused about, and that's the reason why I thought I'll start this YouTube channel and the tutorial so that I can make it easy for you guys to understand the cloud technology, and so that you can also leverage these learnings into your project, into your life, into your career, and then you can gain a mastery over this cloud technology. Guys, I am working as a technical project manager. I have been working in this cloud technology since past 5-6 years, and that's the reason why I thought I'll get this channel out so that I can help you guys with my expertise. Guys, as you can see here, you can contact me on LinkedIn. You can get in touch with me, connect with me on LinkedIn, on the YouTube. This is my channel, the Cloud Minds. And if you want to connect with me over the email, this is my email address, and you can always connect with me, guys. That's a short introduction about me. And the topic that we are going to study or understand today is called the XaaS. It might sound confusing, but it means anything as a service. Now, initially, when I got into this AWS realm to try to understand and provide the solutions to our project, it was initially, it was very difficult for me to understand how this cloud technology actually works. Well, basically the cloud technology actually works as a service. Now let me give you a bit of example so that you can understand. Let me give you an example of a cab aggregator so that I can make you understand what this cloud technology or what this anything as a service means. For example, if you take Uber, it's a cab aggregator, we can say. Okay, so what we do, we summon the cabs, we book the cabs, the cab arrives at our location, at our origin, and then it picks us up. We travel in the cab, they drop us off at our destinations, we pay the cab or the cab driver, the cab aggregator, whoever, we pay them of whatever the services that they have rendered to us, and then we go on our own ways. I go wherever I had to, and the cab driver goes on to serve some other customers. Guys, this is very basic of what the cloud technology is all about, or what the anything as a service is all about. So these services are offered to you over the internet so that you can use it, leverage it, and you can pay as you go. Now what does this mean? You only pay for what you use. If it is just sitting there, you don't have to use it. You use it only after you pay only after you summon the services and then use those services. Only for that particular amount of time you pay. Now there is one very interesting part that I had while I was studying this. I had come across a very interesting phrase. It says, the more you use, the less you pay, the less you use, the less you pay. So this is how actually the cloud technology is modeled, guys. Alright, so as I said, XaaS, which means anything as a service, and this is one of the important basic fundamental concepts of AWS, which it was difficult for me to understand, but I thought I'll make a video for you to understand this. And as you know, as I've already told you, this is my channel, the Cloud Minds, and this is the tutorial where we are starting to understand everything from basic till the mastery. Alright, so what does this actually encompass, or what does this actually mean? I've tried to give it in a very simple definition. Anything as a service means it represents a service oriented model. As we already discussed, it's one of the models, it's one of the core concepts, where different computing resources and functionalities, now for example the resources can be the AWS services, the resources can be actually the hardware, physical hardware services, or the networking services that Amazon offers you as a service. Okay, so functionalities that are provided on a subscription basis. So this is like a pay-as-you-go model, or you can also use it as a subscription basis, guys. Right? Next, as it is already written here, it is not an architectural pattern. Quite a few of us get confused whether it is an architectural pattern, but it is not. But it is rather a conceptual framework which encompasses different service models. That is what anything as a service is. Now, this X here can be replaced with infrastructure, so it becomes infrastructure as a service. It can be replaced with software, so it becomes software as a service, and it can be replaced with platform, so it becomes platform as a service. And mind you, we have already put everything in this slide so that you guys can get a good understanding of it. Alright guys, before we move ahead, there is a bit of disclaimer. This is going to be a theoretical lesson. Of course, there will be a practical lesson as well. We are going to study a bit about function as a service, which is serverless architecture, which is called the Lambda. It is one of the services which falls under the category of function as a service, or the serverless architecture. We are going to look at it from a very practical point of view, so I'll do a bit of live demo there, but still it is going to be a theoretically heavy session, so I request you to please stay tuned till the end so that you can get some bonus tips with it. Also guys, if you have not subscribed to this channel, please consider subscribing it, because stats say that 85% of you who watch those videos are non-subscribers. So the only request that I have for you is to please subscribe to my channel. Alright, let's move ahead and try and understand what does this XaaS actually encompass. As we have already seen, the X in XaaS can be replaced with various terms. For example, I have provided here platform as a service, software as a service, infrastructure as a service, function as a service, IoT, AWS IoT as a service, or there can be any other things like database as a service. We can also talk about machine learning as a service. So these are all as a services that AWS provides us, and we can leverage this for our own projects, for our own work, guys. Alright, let's move ahead. Of course, when you talk about any technologies, there are advantages as well as there are disadvantages. So I'm going to cover both of them for this particular as a service model or the pay-as-you-go model. I'm going to discuss more about it, what are the advantages and what are the few of the disadvantages that these services offer. So first, let's look at the advantages. Of course, it offers a lot of flexibility, because you don't have to actually, if you talk about on-premises infrastructure, you have to configure everything. You have to get this physical servers, you have to do the network, you have to get the networking devices, perform the networking, deployment, everything. You'll have to take care of the patching, operating system, hardware, coolants, everything you'll have to take care of, the physical security, etc. But when you come to cloud technology, you give everything, almost everything, whose responsibility it is to manage. So we look at it, but more why people are moving towards the cloud technology is because it offers flexibility, scalability. You can scale it as much as you want. It is cost effective. Now the cost effectiveness comes, as I said, it is a pay-as-you-go model. That is the cost effectiveness that I'm talking about. As users can pay for only the resources they consume. So for example, we were talking about Lambda. If you have created a Lambda function and if it just sits there without being used, you're not charged. You're only charged or billed only for the hours that the Lambda actually runs. So coming back, for only the resources they consume on a subscription basis, rather than investing in and maintaining dedicated hardware and software infrastructure, like we talked about the on-premises infrastructure, where you have to have dedicated hardware, software, teams, networking devices, coolant, security, etc. to take care of all this. Whereas if you consider the cloud technology, it offers all of this flexibility, scalability, cost effectiveness, etc. That's the reason why, that's one of the main advantages of why people are preferring more and more to move towards the clouds. Alright, now as I said, there of course, if there are advantages, there will also be disadvantages. What are the disadvantages? I could think of few of the disadvantages which I have mentioned here. So one of the disadvantages that we can think of is dependency on the service providers. Now, if you are working with, for example, AWS or GCP or Azure, you have something called as a vendor lock-in, because your data resides on that cloud service provider. Then you have a vendor lock-in, because the kind of configurations that one of the service providers has can be quite different than the other service providers. For example, Lambda and the configurations that are inside Lambda we have already done can be different than the Azure or the GCP. That's the reason why we are talking about the vendor lock-in here. Alright guys, so vendor lock-in is, think about something like any of the service cab aggregators. For example, I told you about the Uber, right? That's one of the cab aggregators. Now for example, you think that you cannot, once you have downloaded their application, you need to only use their applications, you cannot use any of the other applications. So that is kind of a vendor lock-in we are talking about. Now second thing that I can think about is the security and privacy concerns, because let's think about it. The data that you are generating, or the personal identifiable information, the PII data that is being provided by the people, for example the data, the transactions data that is going on in the banks, or the data that is being generated by the governments or the military, all of the data resides on these cloud service providers, actually physical hardware, and it is always a security and a privacy concern for many of them. But of course there are mitigations for that, but still, because if you have to share your data with someone else, some other service provider, there is always the sense of security and privacy concerns, and that's the reason why they have to be contingent, they have to be in accordance with the law of the land wherever they are operating. So if they are operating in the US, they need to be compliant with all of the regulatory authorities and regulatory compliance that is being provided, guidance that is guidelines that are being provided to them. They have to be compliant with all of them. Alright guys, moving ahead. Now this is one of the important and nice GIFs that I had got from the internet. I just thought it is really important for us to understand what is the on-premises, what is versus the cloud. Now I could put just three as a service, for example infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service models here on what your management or your responsibility is versus what the cloud provider's responsibility is. Now if you see here on premises, for example, right, you have to take care of everything right from the data to virtualization to operating system to runtime to networking, storage, etc. Everything you'll have to take care of, and you need a dedicated team to take care of all this. Whereas when you actually move to the cloud, you are giving most of these responsibilities to the cloud service provider. For example, if you think about IaaS or infrastructure as a service, you are giving them the responsibility of virtualization, servers, storage, actually the physical part of it, networking, all of these physical aspects of it, you are giving them the control, and what you have in control is the runtime, middleware, operating system, data, applications, etc. So this is all under your control. You'll have to take care of that. When you move ahead and think about platform as a service, you just have to take care about the application and the data. We're going to look at examples, don't worry about them. We are going to look at examples on how these are segregated and what are the examples or what are the services that are in the AWS. Sorry, coming back, let's talk about platform as a service a bit. So you are only responsible for the application and the data. Rest everything like the runtime, middleware, operating system, etc. will be taken care by the cloud service provider guys. Alright, moving ahead to the software as a service. Here you just have to take care of the data. For example, I can think of is the S3, the simple storage service, wherein I am responsible for only the data as well as encryption, decryption of it, the key management, etc. Only that part I have to take care of. Rest everything, the application, the runtime, middleware, operating system, etc. will be taken care by the cloud service provider, in this case the AWS. Alright, let's move ahead and understand. Like I said, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service, which are here actually. I have tried to provide a bit of a description on what each of them are and one or two of the examples of each of them, what each of them are. Now, for example, if I talk about infrastructure as a service, where I said application, runtime, middleware, and operating system you have to take care of. About is an EC2 instance, wherein you have to provide the operating system, you have to provide the runtime, and what are the applications that will be deployed on that, etc. You'll have to provide them. And if I can talk about a bit about its definition, it says provides virtualized computing resources over the internet. That's the reason why it is called as a service, because it is provided over the internet as a service. Alright guys, so The example of IaaS or infrastructure as a service is EC2 as well as the VPC, where we create subnets, where we provide IP addresses, and then we manage all of these. This is called the infrastructure as a service. All right, let's move ahead and understand what platform as a service is. Now, platform as a service offers a platform allowing customers to develop, run, manage applications without dealing with the complexities of the infrastructure. Now, we have come one layer above, where we are talking about the platform as a service, where we just have to take care about the application part of it, and rest everything will be taken care. Data and the application part of it, rest everything will be taken care by the cloud service provider. So for example, here is Elastic Beanstalks, which takes care of infrastructure, deployment, codes, applications, etc. You just have to provide it the code and the application. Rest everything will be taken care and built for you using the Elastic Beanstalk. And similar is the case with the AWS App Runner as well. Moving ahead, which is software as a service. Now, what does this mean? It means that it delivers the software application over the internet, eliminating the need for users to install, maintain, and update any of the softwares or applications locally. So, as I said, we can think of is an S3, and here they have also provided an example of Amazon Workmail or Amazon Chime. Chime is similar to Zoom that we use, or Google Meet that we use. It's similar to that. So this is one of the examples wherein we just use those services and we don't consider or need to understand or even worry about the underlying infrastructure or the platform for that matter. All right, these were the ones that we already know, and these are the ones we know less about. For example, function as a service. Now, what is function as a service? AWS Lambda. You just have to provide the function or the script, and everything will be run for you. Like we'll talk about the live demo, which is the next. We are going to talk about the live demo. I'm taking Lambda here as an example. I'll try to run the Lambda and then show you how the Lambda is run on the UI or on the AWS management console. Right. Next, coming to the next part, which is database as a service. Now, for example, Amazon RDS and DynamoDB are examples of database as a service. Security, I can think about is Amazon AWS IAM. Everybody knows about identity and access management, IAM, and the key management services, wherein we provide keys for encryption, decryption, etc. This is a whole lot of new topic. We'll be discussing all of these, most of these services, which are really important. But for now, just understand that these fall under the security as a service model. Next, we can talk about is analytics as a service. Now, the examples for this is Redshift and QuickSight. As you know, Redshift is one of the data warehousing solutions that are offered by Amazon, and QuickSight is similar to any other tool we use for representation. For example, Tableau. You can think about QuickSight as Tableau, wherein we have the data represented in very beautiful format for people who are not technical to understand what this data is all about. All right. Next, we can talk about machine learning as a service, Amazon SageMaker, Amazon Comprehend, Internet of Things as a service, which is AWS IoT as a core, when we previously spoke about this as well. And last but not the least, there are many such as a services that are being offered by the AWS. Now we can talk about the other thing is container as a service, which is the Elastic Container Service or the Kubernetes, Elastic Kubernetes services. These are few of the lesser known but still as a services that Amazon or the cloud computing technology or the platforms provide. Alright guys, let's go ahead and look at one of the demos. Now, as I said, I am going to use Lambda as an example, guys, here to make you all understand how this actually works and how does this serverless architecture or function as a service will actually work, where we don't have to worry about anything, the hardware, networking, underlying platform, nothing we'll have to worry. We just have to provide the code and it runs the code. Let's look at it. Alright guys, let's take a look at Lambda as a function. As I told you, this is function as a service. It comes under serverless architecture. We don't have to worry anything about underlying architecture or underlying infrastructure or the middleware operating system, what is the networking. We just don't have to worry about anything. We can just create a function, and then as we run the function, we are only charged on what the function that we run, and once we are done with the function just sits there and we are not charged anything for it. We are only charged when we are running the function. I'll just try and create a test function for me to explain and make you understand how does this fall under the function as a service model. Alright, let me create a function. I'll give it a name, my test function lambda. I'm just giving a random name, and here you have to select the runtime. Now let me select Python as the runtime because I'm more comfortable using Python. So let me create the function, and then while it is creating, as I said, this is one of the models serverless that falls under the serverless architecture, because Lambda is completely serverless. We don't have to worry anything about the underlying infrastructure of it. We just have to create the function and then run the function. Alright, if you see that the Lambda has created a sample code for us to implement it. As of now, I'm not going to implement or make any changes. I'm just going to add a print statement. Print statement will be simple hello world, right? And then we just have to, in order to save this function or the changes that we have made, we just have to deploy this. And for us to test it, for us to unit test it, I just have to configure the test event. Let me call it as my test event 1. Alright, this is just a random name, as I said, I'm giving it, and I'm saving this test. And if we test it, we should get two things. We should get the hello world as well as the status, and the hello from Lambda is what we are expecting as the response. Alright, let's look at the execution results. If you look at the execution results, the response already has the status code as 200, and the body has hello from Lambda, and the hello world is also printed that we had requested the Lambda to print using the Python. Alright, so this is one of the examples. If you see, two of the things are printed, as we already know. Print statement as well as the body and the status code, these are all printed in the Lambda without us worrying about the underlying infrastructure at all. Alright guys, this was one of the examples that I wanted to show you that falls under the function as a service or the serverless architecture. This is very important to understand. Whatever we have seen in the Lambda is like very 36,000 feet view. You don't have to worry about Lambda. We are going to in future tutorials, I'm also going to tell you talk about Lambda, make you guys understand what actually is Lambda from basic till mastery, and I'll make sure that I simplify this Lambda by giving you some kind of analogy along with how does this Lambda work with something else, so that you guys can understand what this Lambda is all about. Alright guys, so it was a really nice tutorial. I really enjoyed because you stayed till the end just to watch this tutorial, try and understand how the Lambda works and what are these as a service, anything as a service that comes along with it. If you guys have not subscribed, this is the last thing that I wanted to say. If you guys have not subscribed to the channel, I request you to please subscribe to the channel to not miss any of these kind of videos where we are trying to simplify the cloud. Alright guys, this is Tejas, the Cloud Simplifier, signing off. Thank you and have a great day.